Alright then. Welcome everyone to Hyperdimension Neptunia U Action Unleash. I'm Ozdhaka, and I'm going to go and make sure that the cheats are off because otherwise, A, this run will be invalid, and B, this run will be even easier than it already would be, so I'd say we're about ready to go. Ready? Oh boy. Yeah, it's fine. Oh. Alright. In that case, let's go ahead and start this off in 3, 2, 1, go. So, welcome to Neptunia U, the game that has lots of load screens. Because, oh boy, there's a lot of load screens in this game. I don't think I've ever tried to check how many, the runtime on these load screens, but maybe one of these days when I'm bored enough, I'll try it. So for now, we're going to start off with a candidate article, because in this game, we're going to be doing a few barrier skips, and the candidate article has the hardest of the 5 skips that we're going to be doing in this game. So for now, we're going to go ahead and select 2 characters, since the game will force you to select 2 characters. In this case, we're selecting VIIR and RAM. Now, VIIR is only going to be really used for this one mission, simply because her ability to dash cancel is the fastest of the 4. And RAM is going to be used pretty much throughout this entire run because she's one of our carries here. In this case, she's the damage carry. And by the way, that skip, thank you, Sir Cadio, for finding the heavy version of that skip, because the light version of that skip is, while technically faster, a whole lot less consistent than the heavy version. And even then, it's just like, you got... Come on, guys. Please stop trying to paralyze me. Dangnabbit. Oh my gosh. You guys want to ruin the freaking run today, huh? Alright, let's go. So yeah, by the way, that is not the button I wanted. Yeah, in case anyone doesn't happen to know, welcome to the Tamsoft making this game rather than IF and Compa making this game, and they kind of brought something over from Samron. So that was a bit of an awful headache, but that actually didn't really slow me down all that much. The actual damage didn't stop me, it's just the paralysis and the other stuff. Yeah, this game can be dull like that, but they do remark about it. Oh, I'm meh, whatever. I don't think I didn't get as much XP as would have liked though. Oh well, but it's definitely a mess start. But we still have the other article as well. We still have to deal with the CPU article, and well, I didn't quite get to finish what I'm saying because of what the robots did, but RAM is our main carry, our main damage deal in this run. She has an attack. Her basic attack, while transformed, does 11 hits, and it absolutely tears through enemies in a hurry as long as you're face up and hitting them with it. So now that we're on the CPU article, we're going to be using, well, once again, we have to deploy 2 characters, and this time it's going to be Neptune and VIIR. Now, Neptune's going to be used mostly to help us do another barrier skip on this stage, while VIIR is our other carry in this run. In this case, she moves fast, because her ability is to A, dash really fast, because her heavy attack is not just a heavy attack, but it also moves very fast, but also it's technically another dash as well. Also, I switched, although I think I did that skip with VIIR by accident. Oh well. Well, we need to deploy another character anyway, so Neptune is just simply the fastest one to select, and oh boy, I'm suffering from input lag again, but it's okay. Do we have a doggo nearby so we can get the hit count working better? No, please don't try to attack me, thank you. Are you... Oh, you're not invulnerable while you're trying to attack. Yeah, quite a few of the large enemies that we fight in this game have a strange, well, at least some of them, the whales especially, but they have if their attack makes them invincible while they're attacking, then it's like, please stop. Please don't attack. I don't want to have to deal with that, thank you. Oh, man. But, yeah, after we do the 2 articles, we get introduced to the two journalists in this game that, for the first time in the Neptunia series, are actually playable as opposed to being like scouts or something, where you got Dengekiko and Famitsu. Now, Dengekiko is pretty good in her own right. She does the second best damage. The big attack that that will allow her to do a lot of damage is unfortunately later in her combo string, so it's usually better off to have Ram do all the main damage, but Dengekiko at least has a pretty good damage setup, and she can definitely do a better job of blending than some other characters would. Let's not talk about Famitsu. Sure, her damage is awful, very awful. But unfortunately, we will have to use her in the next mission, and then there's another mission in Chapter 3 where she's a backup, thankfully, because we're going to be using Dengekiko throughout most of that. But for now, we have this mission where we're technically supposed to collect 4 items. We can get 3 of them from these pie shells, but the 4th one won't spawn until we get to the bottom, who itself will not spawn until we get 200 kills. So for now, what we need to do is we need to focus on getting those 200 kills, and while we're trying to get those 200 kills, we have a secondary objective that we need to take care of by taking down as many of these pie shells that we as possible, because, well, not pie shells, the sunflowers, because the sunflowers gate an item that we need, one of the 2 items that we need for this run. Ooh, can we do this? Yes! Yes, we can! We nailed that one. So, I get to skip an animation, detransformation animation by getting Dengekiko's EXE positioned in such a way where I managed to kill the boss and get him to land a despawn so that he can drop his item, and then we can just scoot on over with the last movement of the EXE and just be done with it almost immediately. So Famitsu here, I can't even begin to explain how bad her damage is very well. Partly because it's like, even with crits, she's dealing like 400 damage, 500 damage. Other characters' crits are dealing like 1,000, 1,200, maybe more than that sometimes. But sometimes technically that under normal circumstances, Ram's transform damage is about the same level. The thing is though, she gets to deal 11 hits with that, and even so even like a 200, 300 damage from her non-crit, hitting 11 times, yeah, it's a real potent hit. So right now, we're trying to get to 130 kills here. Where is that? Oh, there you go. I want the spot to scoot on over so that we can get him close to the net bulls that we're going to be using, because those net bulls will help us get more SP, and in fact it's 2 bars of SP, which is enough for us to use a skill, one of her skills, because if we try to use her EXE, oh boy, it's so bad. It's not even Power Glove bad, it's just straight up bad. But thankfully, we're done with that mess. I don't think I've used that EXE in a long time in this status, and I have never, like, that EXE is so utterly garbage, I can't even begin to really elucidate how badly it is, because I do not want to use it on that stage at all, if at all possible. But thankfully, we don't have to deal with that. So, now that we've done with both of the journalists, we're done with Chapter 1. And that means a few things. First, we get access to the last quest that we need to do that will allow us to get the first item that we need for this run. This first item is going to be called the Scramble Engine. And we need 150 Sunflower medals in order to lay claim to it. So, for this quest, well, it's time for the power duo. Vert goes in and just lightning thrusts everything to oblivion until we get to 91 kills, and then we get to switch to Ram, and then she gets to do the rest of the run. Once we finish this mission and get the Scramble Engine equipped on everybody, we don't have to deal with the 91 kill requirement that we would normally have to deal with in order to transform, because that Scramble Engine lets us go straight to the full, go to a full EXE meter. And I'm going to try and make sure we get that. Only under 43, it's still kind of slow. Okay, we're good. So, we get the Scramble Engine equipped on everybody, even though technically speaking we don't really need to use it on not everybody's going to be actually use it. In this run, Blanc and Ram are just going to be stuck doing reserves, but they're really most likely just going to be stuck reading. So we get the Scramble Engine on everybody, but that's just mostly for that's just muscle memory at this point. So we get this we finally get the Scramble Engine, and now we get to move on to the second of the two items we need for this run. We need to start off by farming these turrets, and I'm not sure if anybody really noticed it, but I actually do a dash right in front before I do the transformation, just so I can get the turret spawning during the transformation timer itself. And interestingly, this stage has like 240 turret spawns, 120 in front, 120 back, so you can just pick a direction and go. And then after this, we get introduced to the so-called irregular quests with weird quest conditions, weird quest descriptions and unusual mission clear requirements. But we don't actually get into any of them until we clear one more quest. And that means we just have to do, well, the fastest one. Where's our buddy? Yep, here's our whale. And whales in this game are jerks because they're one of the large enemies in this game where if you let them attack, they have a 10-second long animation where you straight up can't hit them. And that means they're gonna waste your time. And boy howdy does that suck. So, now that we have the irregular quest open, we're gonna go to the one that we need to do in order to finish grinding out the last item that we need for this run. That item is called the Maximizing Kit X. It means you're basically going to Berserk, Barbarian mode, because you're doing high damage, but you're trading off a lot of defense in exchange. There's technically since it's the midline, there's both a regular version. That one drops from the pie shells, but we don't kill nearly enough pie shells for that to matter. And more importantly, the damage modifiers on it are too low for us to really make use of it. And meanwhile, the other one, we're not going to run into the enemy that actually drops it. So we just have to deal with the, we get to play with the X version because that's the one that's, well, in the way. So since we need 150 medals, but it's not quite high, but the turret drop rate for those is actually not quite high enough for one run of this to generally satisfy the requirement. So instead, we're going to have to restart it around the 175, 185 mark. So I went a little bit higher, but if RNG is kind, we actually could go a little lower, but we're in marathon mode, and I am not going to risk that. So since we need that, since we're just going to go ahead and kill a lot of turrets anyways. The Maximizing Kit X is in our way, and so we can just grab that and then just start tearing apart literally everything from there on. But that lack of defense can be a problem in, well, 1 or 2 stages. But thankfully, Ram is, well, hilariously, incredibly maneuverable, and she can just tear apart everything else here. So this is how those 11 hits, augmented by a huge damage booster, is going to make sure that, well, she's going to carry, I don't know, at least half the rest of the run, because Chapter 3 has a bunch of quests that will essentially force the deployment of, well, essentially try to force the deployment of everybody, but the one for Louise is just, you're stuck only being allowed to deploy 2 characters, so Blanc gets to be stuck in the reserves. In fact, she's just gonna be stuck reading this whole run because she's not gonna be like, she's just too slow. Her attacks are too slow, and she doesn't get a good like, there's exactly one quest that she can potentially be helpful on, but it's RNG and it's a bit headache-inducing to try to do it sometimes. And I'm not quite up to it yet in trying to optimize that yet. So we're gonna go ahead and go through the rest of the irregular quests. This one, it's I mean, it's kind of a joke, really. It's just, you have Ram, you just transform, EXE, and then blow up all of them. And then this next one is actually a kind of an unusual one. And I'm gonna go ahead and give Blanca Symphony deploy real quick, but Noir is going to be the one doing this, and hopefully I aim the volcano dive just right. Because this quest is a weird, the weird requirement for this quest is that there's 2 ghosts that spawn in this quest and nothing else. And you have to kill them simultaneously. But as you might have noticed, I gave it about 2-3 seconds space, and I still managed to clear the quest. So, not that one. So it's simultaneous in quotes, but the game will fail you if you try to leave it as one. So this next quest, I used to do this with Neptune Ram and use the transformation to do the kill here, but Ox showed me that you can do this with VIIR instead, so we're gonna do it with VIIR. And we did have to bring Neptune there because due to a weird coding in this game, we can just transform and get rid of a temporary invincibility barrier that they happen to have. And that just, yeah, weird coding. This quest with all these tulips, one of them is super fast and super strong, and you have to kill that one. And usually I just want to hide, make sure it runs behind me, so that it's very easy to kill afterwards. So that it's I get it killed fast, and B, I skip the detransformation animation afterwards. Now, for this quest, it's a hide and seek quest. There's 5 dogmen that are hiding around in roughly the same spots, but only roughly. And sometimes they like to run away after you find them. And that makes hitting them with Condensor Dance kind of an annoying aspect of this game. Well, at least with this quest, but it's not nearly as bad as the next quest we're going to be dealing with, because this quest is RNG and extremely stupid. Because this quest asks you to go ahead and farm 80 medals. And right now my range still sits at the 368 to 484 range, but that just means this quest, with its extremely easy to kill doggoos and tulips, is headache inducing. Now I happen to choose both Ram and Uni here, I'm not going to go and switch between them, but I just want to go and emphasize that these two are probably like the ones I would use the most in this particular quest, at least as far as trying to farm the medals. And there's a definite trade-off between the two of them. Ram has better, Ram moves faster and has a shorter range, while Uni moves slower, but she does, but her attacks actually go farther, and it's enough that if you are parked right next to that light wall in the middle of that donut, because this stage does kind of look like a donut, does feel shaped in the form of donut. You can shoot all the way to the other side of that circle, with that little hole, and you can actually hit enemies on the other side with that. With the way I'm actually doing this stage, kind of spaced out in the middle here, I am not taking a good advantage of that, but I am going to go ahead and get quite a few more of the spawns that spawn here, and so that's how Ram. This is how I go ahead and deploy Ram for this. Uni might be able to might be able to do something different, but it's been a while since I tried to do any serious checking with this stage yet, so thankfully we're just done with it. Now for this quest is a little dumb, because the whale you gotta kill here, because yes, it's another whale. You cannot damage it with normal normal attacks or even with EXE skills. You have to use a regular SP skill, and that just generally means you go in with VIIR and you just blend it to death with Canestra Dance. So that's a simple quest by comparison. We did those two quests before these last two that we're going to need to do to complete Chapter 2, mostly because of a menuing optimization, because if you leave those two quests for last, another couple of quests spawn in front of it that just means you have to press down a couple more times. So we do those two quests before before this quest, and the next quest, it's just strictly a menu optimization. Now, this quest doesn't really seem like an irregular quest. It's just you go kill 100 enemies, 100 pixel invaders, because that's probably the only thing that really seems irregular about it, and that doesn't seem to matter all that much. Instead, you just go in, you have Ram kill everything as usual, and then you just go kill the rival mech. And then afterwards, you get to deal with this quest, which is actually a markedly different quest, because it tasks you to go collect 16 items, and that means this is VIIR's wheelhouse. She goes fast. And I'm gonna make sure I try not to completely botch this. I've been completely botching in the practice, but yeah. Side note: try not to do a heavy attack with her while in midair, because the dive that she does is pretty slow in this game. If you try to dive. Similarly, don't try to mash a heavy attack button that makes her dash, because if you try to do that, you get this flurry of stabs that just stops you in place for about a few seconds, and that's just kind of awful. So now we're done with Chapter 2, and after Chapter 2, we get to deal with the 1/8 of the plot that deals with the next gen mech, and it's not really anything serious. He's just there. It's just a jerk. And while it might seem that we can fight the rival mech, seemingly, because after we do some more plot blabber, we get to go ahead and go straight to the final boss, and that'd be cool and all. But the thing is, it's an unwinnable fight, because the boss in question, because the next gen mech in question has an invincibility barrier that we cannot break yet. And I just want to go ahead and say this much. Several years back, I played this game for the first time. And when I first fought the next gen mech in that first attempt at the final battle, it took me a good 10 to 15 minutes to fight that fight before I realized this boss does not take any damage. The regular attacks don't do anything, the SP attacks don't do anything, the EXEs don't do anything, and that unfortunately means I have to go and take the punches straight to the face, or rather the blades to the face in this case. So we got the slow attack, yawn. The slow attack is like about a second slower than the fast attack, where she's just like, she readies the blades straight forward, and then she just goes straight up and blending. So this is Neptunia use one unwinnable battle. It's very fast as long as you make sure you try to jump before the ledge, just so you don't have your jump input eaten. But otherwise, it's just there. It's just a fight. It's not really a fight, but it's just kind of dumb. But now that we realize we can't break that barrier yet, we retreat and we go ahead and try to figure out how are we going to go ahead and break this barrier. And so we go get to deal with another 5 quests. And these 5 quests are separated amongst nations plus the journalists. And that means real awful things regarding the journalists, because as far as their quest is concerned, this first part of the quest is probably the most legitimately dangerous part of this run, simply because, let's put it this way, you go into this quest with probably a level 10, level 9, level 8 Dengekiko and Famitsu duo in the speedrun, and you're going to be faced off with these Dogwoodmen and mushrooms that are really, really dangerous, because the Dogwoodmen can 2-hit you with our current equipment setup, and that does include a paralysis effect on their attacks. And if they can hit you a second time with that paralysis effect while you're stuck, and yeah, as demonstrated, well, they doesn't demonstrate the first hit of it, but thankfully we survived that, because if because the attack lasts long enough that they can hit you twice with that, and that means lull them out, you're down. But thankfully, if you're far enough away, they will knock you back just far enough that they will not hit you a second time and take you out. Now, the mushrooms, on the other hand, they have a very, very slow attack where they try to ready up their stomp. If they hit you with that stomp, it's a one-shot. If you're untransformed. If you're transformed, you get you have enough HP to barely survive that, but afterwards, either heal or try not to get hit. Demonstrated. Dagnabbit. Alright, well, so welcome to why this quest is very dangerous. These guys are very, very tanky and also very, very deadly. And that means I'm going to have Famitsu not get owned here. Because if she does, I have to try again. And that'll just mean that's the second time I have had to restart the stage because of me absolutely getting blasted by these guys. But thankfully, I am not too worried about it, because characters in this game don't stay down forever. Give it some time, and as long as you're okay. Kiko, are you gonna go ahead and demonstrate that for us? Yeah, there you go. She's back up and she's ready to fight again. That means I don't want to use you. I want to go ahead and use you, who's actually better at blending this guy to death. So, after we killed 66 enemies in that first part, we get to go do a barrier skip. It's a little wiggling, but it's a little wiggling and a little bit of camera manipulation. Well, not that much, but you just need to aim the camera just a little bit right, just to nail this boss. And now, I gotta go ahead and do the thing that I did back in Chapter 1. Uh-oh. Nope, went too close. Never mind. Oh well. I showed it off once. It's fine. But yeah, it's the same thing as the first time we fought with Dengeki, where if you manage to maneuver your EXE in such a way that you get the boss to drop, and so you can get it to spawn its item, you can maneuver your EXE, the last part of your EXE, to barely reach that item and skip the detransformation animation. But I did not, so oh well. Now it's on to VIIR. Since VIIR is, well, since this game's the 5 missions that we are here on the Volcano path are split across nations plus the journalists, this is a solo mission for VIIR, unfortunately. She can't bring, like, if we had the oracles here, she might have been able to bring Chica, but unfortunately, Tamsov did not give them that, honor, so that just means, oh, I don't want you, Snowburst, to completely hit VIIR while she's trying to dash here, thank you. So, since there's 95 enemies that we gotta go kill here, we are going to go ahead and yeah, I'm starting to run into some problems again. I don't know. But we do want to go ahead and just... There you go. We just want to go and get the 95 kills here so that we can get the barriers and just get to this part. Now, there technically is a barrier skip for that one too, but it is even more annoying than the one that we have in the candidate article. And in fact, we haven't made a nice consistent skip for it yet. And it's technically easier on the Vita version, but the problem is the Vita version has even worse loading times than this one, if you can believe it. So, we'd much rather try to find a more consistent one for this one, if possible. But until then, we just have to put up with VIIR stabs everything to death there. Now, this is Louise' quest, and that just means we get access to Blanc, Ram, and Rom here, but that just really means Ram just goes in and kills everything as usual, while one of the other two gets to go ahead and, I guess, supervise it, or offer moral support. At the very least, provide backup when the whales on the end of this quest, because yes, there's more whales on this one. It's the last time we get to have to deal with it in the 90% run, but it's still... Is there another penguin? Hey. Yep, 70 kills. And sometimes the penguins are a little shy. They just want to go ahead and be a little off to the side and prevent you from getting all the good damage. But thankfully, they're easy to kill because we do have the maximizing kit that's providing all the damage that we need for this run. But for now, oh hey, spawned a little bit weirdly close there, but that's fine. That just means you don't have to move as much to go ahead and get the kills on them. But thankfully, they didn't try to attack, and that means we get to go ahead and just bop them down. And now, after we go ahead and go through Louise' quest, we need to go ahead and deal with Last Station's quest. And they have the silliest barrier skip in the game, as well as the simplest. So, it goes like this. Go ahead and transform Noir get 2 dashes in, and boom, you're done. Yeah, that's I run a quarter circle left to up motion roughly, and that's just really a setup to get the skip in there. And yeah, it really is that simple. You just angle slightly and you don't just dash straight through it. It's comically silly, and it's so good. And I wish all the other barrier skips in this game were that simple, but unfortunately they're not. Some of them require us to do more than a little wiggling and a little bit of geometry jank, but thankfully this is a relatively simple quest as a result. We don't really use Noir other than those two, other than this quest and the irregular quest that features the simultaneous kills. She doesn't do as much damage as we'd like her to, unfortunately. And her attacks, with a lot of flourish, unfortunately mean that she attacks a little bit slowly by comparison. So, now that we're here over in the purple and Planet Neptune, sorry, we're gonna go ahead and just have Neptune and VIIR go ahead and do the usual, blend everything to death. Because I don't think we found a barrier skip for that one either, but even then there's going to be plenty of enemies spawning from the start, and it's a little annoying to try to do that barrier skip while you're also trying to deal with these enemies. But thankfully it's not nearly as much of a problem. Now, we do have to deal with some bottlenecking issues with these guys because I haven't been mentioning that a whole lot by comparison, but there is, but because of how you have to kill all the enemies in an area to advance plot generally, in order to dispel the barriers and keep going, you have to bear in mind that you have to deal with enemy spawn numbers, and yes, we are recycling that barrier skip from the CPU article, but we do need to be very mindful of enemy counts, because sometimes certain enemies spawn in less quantities, but they all need to be killed. Other Dogu, can you please move in? Thank you. Okay, we're good. Detransformation, but whatever. But we do want to be very careful. But we do want to go ahead and deliberately focus on the pie shells during that first part, because they're the ones that will run into that bottlenecking issue, where they're going to be usually the ones that are the last ones to show. They're going to be the last ones on the field when we're done killing the rest of the enemies. And in addition, they have the slowest death animation of the enemies in that first part, so it's even bigger imperative for us to get in. Focus them down and get them and keep them spawning, so just so we can get through that last part. So after that, after all five after the nations and generals finally managed to go ahead and clear out their quests, we get to go ahead and finally get the power that we need to go ahead and tear apart this boss that we used exactly once here, because this attack is pretty crap as far as being an actual attack is concerned. It's just a plot attack. It's not very good. Now afterwards, we do want to go ahead and hit this boss with extra dances, because you see that blender attack? Yeah, that attack was really fast. We would have really liked it if we managed to get that during the unwinnable plot battle, but instead she's going to use it here, and we generally assume it's going to happen here. So we just go in, mash, and just hit them and hit this next gen bit before the final boss tries to do anything. But 6 extra dances, 2 EXEs, and we're already done here. So time is in a little bit. And time. 39 minutes, that's not too bad. That's just after that weird initial, after that weird bit in the canon article. I'm glad that it went well. So, Neptunia mech is down, and I've actually, you know what? We got time for to show at least some of this cutscene, or are we just gonna need to go skip? Oh, okay. Okay, we see Endeavor. Let's just go ahead and go through and show off the credits at least, or at least the credit scene, because that one's also pretty good too. But unfortunately, we kind of need to move on a little bit here. So for now that we've finished this, now that we get to go ahead and now we've finished off the Neptunia mech and give it thanked it for being a challenge, I guess. Even though Neptune says like this is a totally tough fight and all, it's not. Like this game does not feature a sense of super armor for a lot of its enemies, where they can still attack even though you're still damaging them. Most of the time, if you hit them, they get stunned, and that just means you can just hit them over and over and over again until they just fall over and poof. But yeah, after we finish giving the Neptunia mech versus battle, we go to the next scene, and it's like, oh hey, check out more of these new articles that we made for you guys, and show how awesome we are at doing things over in game industry. And then it's like afterwards, then you go from this and says, okay, let's go and do some more. And Neptune's like, nah, I'm gonna go sleep. I got some betting to do. So, thankfully, it's a really, really, really simple game. Well, it's simple in the sense that you, like, beyond a few barrier skips and just making sure you have items set up, it's a lot of mash X and then you just go blend everything to death game. It's not nearly as headache-inducing as far as RNG is concerned, compared to, well, the mainline games and other such. But yeah, it's a really fun, really simple game. So there's also a little bit after the credits where it's like that IF and Compa go ahead and show off some of the other things in this game that it has to offer. But we're not worried about those because we're done here. So thank you all for watching. I'm Ozdhaka. This has been Neptunia U Action Unleashed. And we'll see you next time, alright?